Hello, it's great to be here, and thanks for letting us see a little bit of what the enterprise, what you guys have been working on in the projects and things. These days, I've been an entrepreneur from the beginning. My parents were very entrepreneurial and did things like starting, I'm from Buffalo, New York, start the recycling center in Buffalo and lots of sort of more social activist things. And so I was lucky to be around people who start things, and that's been something that I've done on a regular basis. There's sort of an MIT theme going on, and I have elementary school boys, and I've convinced them that MIT is the Hogwarts of America. So, and that wizardry is actually science and math, which I think is actually true in our world, because you can solve some of the greatest challenges of our lifetime using technology and using innovation and using art together. And to Mary Lou's point, you know, not all of the schools make you study all of the different subjects, but I was lucky in our high school that they kept us taking science and math in addition to history and the liberal arts. And went on, at the time when I was younger, there was a lot of energy crisis stuff going on like now. We sort of had a lull in that. So I decided to do mechanical engineering because I wanted to work on green energy. I then transitioned actually more into internet things and into Google, but that was where my first passion is. And I think the kinds of experiences you guys are having where you, in school or out of school, are making things and being makers, whether it's making a company or inventing something for a science fair, keep doing those kinds of things, because they're the things that inspired all of us. It sort of feels like a day of infinite possibilities, because if you think about it, I think last year someone was here who's like a futurist, and she said the first people who are going to live for 150 years are being born right now. So think about your life. You guys are going to live over 100 years probably. And so the things that you do now about learning to learn are really important, because you're going to have a lot of different careers. And I think, you know, there's a big change that's gone on in the world. And if you look at the 20th century, it's really has a lot of amazing things that were invented, but it's highly characterized by things like the Cold War and the idea of winning and losing. That if one person wins, one person loses, and it's sort of a zero-sum game. And at the end of the century, this new idea, this new human idea came in about open technologies and open ideas. And so open source and the internet arrived. And you see that with tech and how everybody is able to cross-build on these open standards and just make their things and show up as a team and not really need to be highly dependent on central stuff. But it also showed up in things like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, or the idea of open, transparent government, and that the more you share, the more generative it is. And so what I think is interesting is that the 21st century is about sharing and about teamwork and about collaboration. And Bill Clinton talked about creative collaboration. The more you share and the more you team up, the more successful you will be. So there's actually, early on, there was a blogger named Dan Gilmore. He was one of the first tech bloggers. And what he would do is write a column. And then people would write comments for the first time. Usually journalists just would write and they'd put stuff out there, but people would comment. And he found that the comments were so valuable that he'd sometimes write 2 or 3 more columns based on what he learned. You guys know this from things that you post or things you share. The comments you get make your work product so much stronger. And you see that at scale at things like Wikipedia. So one of the things that I think is exciting for you guys is that you're in this highly networked world where one of the ministers was talking about how things are closer together. I call it things become adjacent. You know, we meet today, but because of the internet, we're adjacent. We can keep talking to each other. And we were talking a little bit about President Obama. The day after he won the election, he was talking to the young people who were in his campaign. And he said to them, you know, you guys are smarter, more effective, and more organized than I was at your age. And that's true of all of you guys. I don't think that we've had a Darwinian change and you are genetically different than your parents or your grandparents. I think you're like them in that your parents might be baby boomers and your grandparents might be the greatest generation. And you've channeled their values, but you're networked to each other and networked to them in a way that has never been true in history. And I think that you guys are the next greatest generation. You're the digital natives, and I think you're going to do extraordinary things. And one of the most important things is team with each other and work together. The world's pretty noisy, and in that 100+ years, you know, there's infinite number of things to do. And I think the most important things to do are to follow your heart, follow your passions, discover what you love, and if you do those things, you will do amazing things. A fun idea to think about is not so much what your major is or what you're studying or what your topic is, but actually think a little bit about what your challenge is. Like, you could walk up to each other and say, hey, what's your problem? And what you mean by that is, what are you trying to solve in the world? We do a thing at Google called Solve for X. What are you trying to solve for? And think about approaching the world like that and asking each other and helping each other with that. So I think that will help. Do rapid prototyping and work in diverse teams. So I think we're going to jump to the next things. But last thing I would say is fun things working on Google, because Sherry asked me to touch on that. We're working a bit on self-driving cars, on Google Glass, which is heads-up displays, and really on what we call moonshot thinking. How do you do things that are 10x better versus 1x better, and how can we make the world a better place? So thank you.